All right, good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me? Yes, okay. Uh, Give me 1 second here. All right, there we go. So nice to see you all. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. My name is Jeff, and I will do my best to help you figure something out this evening or stay more confused, one or the other. But why don't we go ahead and we'll start by joining palms. And you can repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. All right. Thanks all for being here. Appreciate it. I just want to start the first couple minutes. I always like to start with a question just to get you all engaged a little bit, communicating with each other, expressing your thoughts, things like that. Um, why don't we start with the question, and I'm going to step away for a second. Um, what inspires you? I think it's important at times like these where we're challenged in ways that maybe we have not been before, that we start to explore where we can find some inspiration and some motivation. So, for a question right now to start with, let's explore what inspires you. And if you're brand new to joining us or brand new maybe to YouTube for the first time, there's a chat box somewhere on your screen there. You can go ahead and type in your response, and we'll take the first few moments to explore and look at that. I'm going to step away for about 30 seconds or a minute. I'll be right back and just start typing in what inspires you. And again, if you're just joining us, welcome. The question to start out with exploring right now as we settle in is what inspires you? Often we have difficulties throughout our days and sometimes can make life a little bit easier if we just find inspiration somewhere. And sometimes, if you have that inspiration, often it's enough just to get you through that day or that hour or that meeting or that conversation, whatever it might be. Um, just finding ways to be inspired. All right, music, helping people heal and become successful. Heroes, love reading about people who are resilient and kind and who have lived lives of compassion, seeking truth, learning, walking in nature. A smile. Yeah, all really wonderful. Um, in questions like these, it's obvious, but just to touch on it, there's no right or wrong answers. These are really just expressions in your own mind and in your own heart of what inspires you. And, if you're struggling right now to come up with what inspires you, that's okay too. Maybe just something you want to look into each day and kind of ask yourself, what do I, what do I need to do to be inspired? Do I need to seek something uh, that can bring me some inspiration? So good things to explore. What else inspires you? All right, waking up each morning, my family. Yeah, these are all really wonderful things to draw inspiration from. Anything else before we settle into the meditation practice? For me, I think challenges inspire me. Um, I've always enjoyed challenges, and as crazy as it sounds, difficult situations, because I think it really forces us to rise to a level of being that we're not used to. And for me, early on, challenges were always with sports and things like that, and then really just finding things that challenge me or that are difficult. Um, Trying to find inspiration in the effort as we go through our days. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin, especially for those who maybe have never sat with us before or joining for the first time. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You're not going to figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds, sounds inside your room or outside, wherever you are. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos and not escaping from it. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders, stomach push forward slightly. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you're on a bench or a chair, also just trying to sit up straight. If you're on a couch or a bed, trying to relax, sitting up straight. I'll suggest closing the eyes if comfortable or slightly open. Mouth will be open or closed, whatever works for you. I will guide us as we begin and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important with this practice is don't expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And again, starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, open or closed, whatever's comfortable. And we'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually you settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. And throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. These are not distractions, not disruptions, simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, you feel them rise, and breathing out, they fall. Simply continuing this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in, breathing out, follow breath out. And with the body still and rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is, sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly, and as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, Has nothing to do with anything I said, nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where we come from or what we believe in or where we think we're going, our whole life is filled with things that happen. We react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice. It's not a fun practice. It's challenging. Meditation is not an escape as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, then meditation doesn't fix that. It simply makes you become aware of your life being a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess and helps you explore what you need to do to change it. So you can be a little calmer, a little more steady, a little clear throughout your day. For me, this practice has been simply holding up a mirror and looking back at my own mind, my own thoughts, my own words, and my own actions. And often people come to Buddhism like I did, looking for something outside of themselves that's going to bring them a sense of happiness or peace or calm or clarity or whatever it might be. And the reality is, it's just reflecting back on you. Where are you at in your life? What are your thoughts and words and actions? How do you spend your time throughout your day? This is really, to me, what the practice is, and it's challenging. So, with that being said, I'd like to stop and just turn it over to questions. If you are joining us for the first time, again, welcome. And I always prefer to use the rest of the time to respond to questions you might have around Buddhist practice, meditation, anything for that matter. And I'll use your questions to share for the rest of the evening. So go ahead and type your questions in somewhere on the page or screen. You'll see a chat box and I'll respond. What is the concept of non-self and how does it relate to suffering? Well, that's an easy one. Uh, so, a very simple, brief response is that the Buddha taught clearly that there is no true inherent self. So, the real question we ask ourselves is if there is no self, then who is it who is actually suffering? Um, Let me continue on that for a minute and then I'll back up and give you my unenlightened take on non self. But if there is no inherent true self, like if there's not one thing that you can just pinpoint and say, this is Jeff, then who is suffering? So the question of what is non-self, um, for me, I look at a couple things. One, in the Zen practice, there's a teaching by Dogen where he says in the practice of meditation that the body and mind fall away and you're left in sensation of breath. So if we let go of our attachment to physical form, if we let go of this notion of self, then where does suffering exist? If we look at, for me, what I take as self out of the Buddhist teachings, or what I get from the Buddhist teachings, is that pride, ego, the stories. I am Jeff, and I was raised here, and these are my parents, and these are my siblings, and these are my possessions, and this is how I was, and this is school, and these are the people I hung out with, and this is the Dharma Bum temple, and all of these things that I tell myself. These are all stories that, to me, create this identity of Jeff. But are all those stories really who I am? Or are they just experiences that I've become very attached to? And it's very easy for me to recognize not so much as when am I abiding in non-self, but when am I wrapped up in self? And that's where I look at when am I wrapped up in my own pride and my own ego and my own judgments, my own expectations. And it's pretty simple to recognize that. And when I am wrapped up in pride, ego, expectations, judgments, self, then suffering absolutely exists. If I think life is all about me and what I want and what I need, then I'm going to suffer a lot. So, this concept or teaching of non self, which is in some ways really difficult because, it's kind of that joke of, how can the self explore non self? Well, I, Jeff, am discussing non self. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, for me, again, I default back to when I'm wrapped up in self, and that's a lot easier to, I think, become aware of. And anytime you do suffer, and the Buddha talked about suffering being this, I think, expression or sensation or feeling that comes from what's called the three poisons, the greed, anger, and ignorance, which leads to suffering. So when we act from a place of greed, when we act from a place of anger, when we act from a place of ignorance, we are coming from a place fully driven of self. I'm greedy, I need more of this. I'm angry, I don't like this. I'm ignorant because I think I'm correct always. So all of these things, I, me, self, 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 suffering. Go beyond self and live in the realm of, I think, selflessness a little bit more, and you'll suffer less. So hopefully that's helpful for yourself. How long does it take a person to come to the awareness that meditation is truly making a difference in one's life? Your whole life. I mean, I don't think that, that's a good question, but, if anybody tells you, like, if I answered that question for you, then I would stop listening to me. I would never join this YouTube talk that I give again. If I could tell you how long does it take? Because the answer to that question cannot be answered by anyone else other than yourself. So the metaphor I use a lot well, let me ask you this, Lori. First of all, are you newer to meditation? I'll kind of keep talking a bit, but just um, are you newer to meditation? And if so, how long have you been doing this? Is my question. But while you're responding to that, what I want to say is that the metaphor I often use for meditation when people ask, how often should I meditate or how long should I meditate? Think of brushing your teeth, right? If you changed your question to say, how long does it take a person to come to the awareness that brushing your teeth is making a difference in your life? What would the answer be? If you don't brush your teeth for 1 day, is at the end of the world? Probably not. If you don't brush your teeth for 2 days, even 1 day for that matter, how's your breath doing? If you don't brush your teeth for a week, for a month, for 6 months, how's the health of your teeth and your mouth and your gums and everything doing? It'll deteriorate pretty quickly. Now, the challenge with meditation and the mind is that we've been brushing our teeth, hopefully, our entire lives. Since you were a little kid, your mother, your father, your somebody, whoever raised you was brushing your teeth before you knew how to brush your teeth. So you have been brushing your teeth your whole life and you still brush them every single day. Now, let's say you're 40 years old and you realize your head's a mess and you're stressed out and you're angry and you want to start meditating. And all of a sudden you've done this for 6 months and you're thinking, well, it's not working. Well, it is working in the sense that it's creating time and space for you to sit and breathe. But if you've never done anything to take care of your mind for 40 years, then you're really working with 40 years of a mind that's a mess. And it's going to take a while. Um, for me, I don't look at meditation as when is it going to happen or when is it going to fix things or when is it going to work. I look at meditation as an opportunity to take a few moments every single day and to stop and just sit and breathe and stop expecting anything to come from it. If you're angry and pissed off and having a terrible day and you sit in meditation for 5 minutes and do nothing but breathe for 5 minutes, it works. Why does it work? Because you didn't do anything during those 5 minutes that would have created more anger. I think the real challenge to your question is when you say making a difference in one's life, I would abandon that question. My first master always said, Jeff, stop looking for answers when you ask questions, start changing the way you ask questions. And what that said to me was I was looking for some concrete answers so I could then go make it work or prove it. And if I looked at your question in that same through that same lens, I would say, well, I'm not going to ask myself when is it going to make a difference in my life. I'm going to treat every meditation as if I've never done it before. And I'm sitting now. I'm breathing now. But if I sit down and I start asking myself, when is this going to work and why isn't it changing my life? Meditation doesn't change your life. As I said earlier, meditation isn't the thing that makes a big difference in your life. The thing that makes a big difference in your life is you and what you're doing when you're not in meditation. And when you settle into meditation, you settle into the sensation of breath and you settle into just sitting and being, you start to get into this, what's called non self more often. Wow, I can sit and breathe. I don't need anything else. I don't want anything else. I don't have to go anywhere else. I can just sit and breathe. And if you don't need, want, or go anywhere else, then you're going to suffer less. I've been doing it on and off for years. I'm just very impatient, waiting for a change in myself that is noticeable to others. Well, okay, fair enough. And I appreciate you sharing that. But one, I mean, you made it easy for me when you said I'm very impatient. So again, it sounds like you have these goals or things you're trying to accomplish with meditation. And my suggestion is to abandon those goals or things that you're trying to accomplish with meditation and simply sit and breathe, just to sit and breathe. And I, I understand the idea of saying, you want it to be noticeable to others, but first and foremost, you're doing this practice for yourself, which is interesting because we're talked about non-self tonight. But the great teaching around that is that you must get to know yourself before you can get rid of yourself. Meaning you must begin to understand what is your pride, what is your ego, what is yourself, what are your attachments, what are your cravings, what are your desires. If you want to free yourself from those, you have to begin to know what they are. So I wouldn't be doing this to hope that it's noticeable to others. I would be doing this because hopefully the desire is to cultivate a deeper sense of wisdom and compassion loving kindness in your life. And when you come from a place of kindness and compassion more often than greed and anger, people will see that. But I don't find any um, real benefit in thinking I need to do this so others see it. And again, I know via text it's hard to expand because I'm sure there's lots to what you're behind what you're saying, but um, I think that it's important to understand that to me, my practice with meditation is I'm not sitting to accomplish anything. I'm in many ways sitting to accomplish nothing. And if I can be okay accomplishing nothing, then wow, what an incredible way to be. Because my entire life I've tried to accomplish things and that made me miserable. So try accomplishing nothing and see how that works for you. I love that it's what, and Laura, hopefully that's helpful. Again, sometimes via text and these YouTube channels, it's difficult to communicate and understand where you're coming from, but hopefully that's helpful. Um, I love that it's what you are not doing. So important in this practice. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for me, um, as someone who grew up very angry and got into meditation practice to deal with anger, uh, when I sat and did meditation, I wasn't acting out on my anger. So it wasn't even so much that the meditation got rid of the anger. Um, the meditation just stopped me from doing anything when I was angry. So it really was, what am I not doing? And that was very beneficial. Uh, I've lost sight of not striving. Yeah, I mean, the Buddha taught we suffer because of craving and desire. So if you're treating meditation as something that you're craving and desiring an outcome from or striving towards, then you're using the things that the Buddha said cause suffering and applying that to meditation. And I just don't think that that's beneficial. We've been striving our entire lives to be better, to be more, to be, faster, to be whatever, to be something else. It's always more, more, more. When you're in the third grade, nobody comes up to you and says, "Hey, just stay in the third grade forever." That'll be great, right? You got to get out of the third grade. Well, to me, Buddhist practice is like staying in third grade for the rest of your life, but doing it proper. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah, no, okay. I was just going to add real quick. I keep going back to Vicky, what you said about what you're not doing, and this idea that it's really hard for most people to do nothing and to just be. And that's why I know you've heard me say it before, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it. But the movie Being There, um, the old Peter Sellers cult classic. I mean, he's literally like almost doing nothing, and it's amazing what can happen if you do nothing. But we're so driven by feeling like we have to be doing something all the time. Um, so watch yourselves with that. Uh, it seems that there's a lot of energy that goes into focusing on self in order to let go of self. How can we just let it go and focus not only on other humans, but on all other living beings? Okay, let me read that again. It seems that there's a lot of energy that goes into focusing on self in order to get rid of self, to let go of self. Of course, as I said earlier, it's the self trying to get rid of the self, which doesn't work that way. how can we just let it go and focus not only on other humans, but on all other living beings? Well, I mean, I wish there was just some simple answer, and in a way there is. It's to recognize that life is about more than just you. Um, but I think the last part of your kind of question there, and focus not only on other humans, but on all other living beings, to me, just again, abandoning the goal or expectation, it's like this idea of not suffering, right? I don't wake up each day as a practitioner and say, I hope I end suffering today. I have for many years now taken this mindset of, can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? Can I do things today that cause less suffering to self and others? Right? That's the approach, not am I going to end suffering by, midnight tonight and, straight to nirvana. Um, so I think it's the practice, not the expectation, not the goal. The practice is to focus on other humans and all other living beings. Like that's the practice. Just do what you can to be of benefit to those around you. And, the idea of getting to know the self before you get rid of the self, there's, I think there's tremendous value and that's incredibly important. Uh, but at the same time, yes, if you spend all of your time, if you spend the next X amount of years just thinking about me, what do I need to fix? What do I need to get better? What do I need to change? What I needed to do? When you let go of that, my master used to always say, like, I would show up and she would say, Jeff, for someone like you, busy is the best nutrition. Stop thinking about yourself and go help someone. And that's what she taught me to do, is just go help people. Figure out a way to help people in any way you can, large or small, no matter who they are, and just help people. And when you help people, we all know what it's like to help people. We feel great. So when you help people, you are coming out of your sense of self, and it's not about you anymore. So the question of how can we just let it go? Clearly, if we're focused on it, we're not letting it go. The mind giving rise to the sense of self that is trying to abide in non self will never get there. And yes, as Marisa says, practice generosity. I mean, that's the Buddha said we suffer. The first thing is greed. And the way we overcome greed is generosity, to give. Give people time, give them attention, give them a smile, give them a hug from 6 feet away with a mask on. Um, just give. When we give, we are in a position of taking ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and giving something from us to others, which helps cut through that sense of self. Uh, yeah, I mean, what Samir said, it's great. It's the meditation is a tool, as many things. Um, many things we can do to really transform our lives. Other thoughts or questions? We'll do one more before we wrap up. Anything else before I close? All right, so we'll go ahead and join palms on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. So, a few quick announcements before you jump off. And Kelly, thank you. You are welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up the Dharma Bum Temple 14 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers. We're just practitioners. And we do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those of you who show up. So every night we have different classes going on. We have since the middle of March or early March, actually, we've been closed due to the pandemic and coronavirus, just for the safety of the community. So everything we have is online. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, our classes are on YouTube with Travis, Alex, and myself. I do Saturday morning as well. And then everything else is on Zoom, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 8:30. All of our recovery classes, anyone battling addiction, our teenage group, our college group, everything's happening. So just go to the website and you'll see the schedule there. I don't think we have anything out of the ordinary coming up, just the usual stuff. So please stay engaged, stay involved, communicate. These are very difficult times. So try to connect with people in any way possible. Uh, Please be safe, wear a mask. It was in the most recent newsletter that got sent out, but again, there are no plans as of yet to reopen. The practice of generosity is the greatest gift, and for us, the greatest gift we can give to the Sangha, to the community, is to make sure, like 14 years ago when we opened, to be a safe place of refuge for all, that we remain a safe place of refuge for all. So if there are endless restrictions on people gathering, 25% and um, all kinds of uh, other guidelines that are being put in place just to bring like 20 people together, and to us that says it's way too risky and it's just not time yet, and we don't want to put anybody in a position of being unsafe or unhealthy and contribute to something that could impact people's lives, so in a negative way. So thank you all for being here. If I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds, and I'll see you all soon. You're welcome, Cynthia.